I'm fine with you doing that.
I thought there was a segue there talking about the Ray Dalio thing that Freeberg cares about. This debate that you're having between kind of realism and idealism in foreign policy is sort of what Dalio tackles, right, Freeberg?
Look, I mean, it sounds to me like there's, let's just say, a red herring. There always needs to be, as Chamath points out, a narrative on framing our enemy when, you're running out of land. I mean, you guys saw this, was it a journal article or a New York Times article that came out today that U.S. intelligence revealed that Putin had actually put some actors into the eastern Ukraine to set up for a reason to have a response and therefore an excuse to invade the Ukraine. So he was trying to create a bit of a fireworks show to give him an excuse. We always need a narrative that we can sell to our.
So I'm gonna cut him off. Basically, what he's gonna argue is that we can't even know that anything is happening to the Uyghurs because it could be just a story that some Americans are telling us in order to justify us not liking the Chinese. So the Chinese are really great, they're fantastic, but they're competitors of ours, and therefore we need to create a story, a mythology around how evil they are to justify being tough on the Chinese, just like the Russians need to create an excuse to invade Ukraine. So they create this, they'll create some kind of attack on themselves. They'll initiate it in order to give them that excuse. Again, this is the kind of stuff that happens when people stop trusting the media, the news sources, the politicians, everybody else, and they don't have firsthand experience. They don't have first knowledge of these places, firsthand knowledge. So they start making stuff up or accuse others of making stuff up. So there's no real crisis in China. None of this stuff is really bad. I find it interesting that people believe. So again, you can spin this in both ways. A lot of people believe bad things about China because they want to believe bad things about China. I find it fascinating that, for example, on stuff that the mainstream media says about, I don't know, Trump or about COVID, well, it's the mainstream media. We can't believe anything they tell us. They're all politically motivated. But when the mainstream media tells us stuff about China that fits the narrative, that is, China's really, really bad, then they're absolutely right. So it's fascinating that people adopt what the mainstream media provides them when it fits into their tribal construct, and they reject it when they don't. And a lot of this is a consequence of the difficulty in figuring out what's objectively true and what's objectively not. And given the amount of conspiracy theories, given the bias that actually exists in the media, given everything else that is going on, it's hard. It actually takes work to figure out what's true and what's not true, what's accurately portrayed by the media and what's not accurately portrayed in the media. Now, I've said many times what I would do in China. I think in looking at a country like China and its behavior towards its own people, whether it's the Uyghurs or whether it's their tech executives, or whether it's, although we're about to do very similar things to the tech executives, or whether it's free speech, everything, the whole attitude of the Chinese government to its own people, we should be very wary of China. And we should be willing to condemn that kind of behavior morally. And when China steals intellectual property rights, and when China uses hackers to hack into American companies or hack into our national security computers, I think the United States should treat China harshly in a sense of withdraw our ambassador, shut down diplomatic relations with China, and then tell our companies they're on their own. If they want to do business in China, they're on their own, right? China is, as a system of government, is a bad place and becoming worse. Becoming worse. And I think we should call them on it. I have always been an advocate for the President of the United States and for leaders of the United States to use the bully pulpit to make clear, moral, unequivocal statements. Just the fact that China took over Hong Kong should have been a major event that should have concerned us. And we need to do the same with Saudi Arabia. And we do need to do the same with lots of other countries. And I think if we did, and if we did it consistently, I think these countries would change. So we should criticize their loud behavior, not you as an individual out there. Not Shamath, he's just living his life. But our leaders, that's what they're there for, should use the bully pulpit to criticize, to condemn, and should make clear what our moral estimation of the regime is by not being friendly to them. Somebody says the U.S. cannot afford to be unfriendly to Saudi Arabia. Why? What does Saudis give us that we can't afford to be unfriendly with them? Nothing. Zero. We get nothing from the Saudi Arabians that we don't already have. We have nothing to fear from the Saudis. We could crush them in a minute. What are the Saudis exactly? What is it that we can't afford to upset them about? I mean, China, we're far, far more dependent in an economic sense on China than we are on Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a close ally. That's a joke. Right? So no, I mean, we need a foreign policy guided by idealism, guided by ideas, but then we have to have a clear vision of what those ideals are. And yes, I think we should be implementing those ideas internally and externally. We should be doing it both inside and outside. So the Saudis start accepting gold for their oil, or start accepting euros for their oil. Who cares? Why does that matter? What economic value does the fact that the Saudis only accept dollars for the oil provide us? It's not clear any. It's a mirage. It's a pretense to think that we depend on Saudi Arabia in anything. And by the way, the Saudis only accept dollars because it's in the Saudis' interest only to accept dollars. They don't trust any other currency. But, you know, the Saudis are reforming in the right direction, but too slow. And as long as they're killing people and stoning people and harassing people, we should condemn them morally. It's, I think, very informative to know that when people don't have a clear moral code, when people don't know what idealism could actually be, that there is an idealism of self-interest, which is what I'm talking about. But an idealism of self-interest views human life as valuable, therefore views the violation of human rights as bad. And then therefore views it as selfish to condemn bad behavior, and an act of justice to call out the bad guys. But selfish justice. Quint, thank you for the support, appreciate it. Quint. But most people, particularly the kind of people, successful people, businessmen, business people out there, they don't have a moral context for what they believe. They are pragmatists. So on the one hand, he's absolutely right. What do I care? Busy living my life. On the other hand, he's wrong. He does care to some extent. The question is, how much is he willing to do about it? Not much, because we live in a world in which there are other bigger problems that need to handle, because he's living in the context of his own life. It's fascinating to me that somebody like that would say, I'll care about it when the United Nations cares about it, when Biden cares about it. That's a real weakness. Real weakness.
Thank you for listening or watching the Yaron Brook Show. If you'd like to support the show, we make it as easy as possible for you to trade with me. You get value from listening. You get value from watching. Show your appreciation. You can do that by going to yaronbrookshow.com/support, by going to Patreon, Subscribestar, Locals, and just making a appropriate contribution on any one of those channels. Also, if you'd like to see the Yaron Brook Show grow, please consider sharing our content and, of course, subscribe. Press that little bell button right down there on YouTube so that you get an announcement when we go live. And for those of you who are already subscribers and those of you who are already supporters of the show, thank you. I very much appreciate it.